was thinking today of all the tools we have, learning new ways to think, or at least thinking in ways that we haven't allowed ourselves to think much before, getting more skillful with minding our thoughts, looking at the mechanism, seeing why am I thinking this? What's the end game? What part of me wants to think this? And what is this going to get me to do? Because so often when I look at these things, I see I'm starting this becoming. I'm thinking of myself as a victim of this particular person, perhaps. And I've done this before. It's like the dog licking a bone. It's my old saliva taste. I've gone down this road again and again and again. So let's look where I'm going. And all right, I'm going to feel very sorry for myself. And so I will allow myself to do something like, I don't know, drink perhaps. Or at the very least cry. Or get angry and have other, express other negative states. It's going to allow me to get very resentful. And that means that, again, this gives us an excuse very often to be greedy. We've been hurt, so we're going to hurt someone else. We're going to get ours back. This person did this, so what's it matter what I do? That's interesting. And sometimes it allows us to get angry at a person for something and do something mean to that person. So they say, that person didn't help me out at this time, or they said this to me 10 years ago. And even though we've apologized and gotten past it, suddenly I'm thinking of that again. And now I'm going to be really mean to that person. I'm going to hurt them somehow. And then you can look and say, well, geez, there's a part of you that wanted to do something like that, wanted to hurt someone or wanted to be unskillfully greedy. I'm going to take this because this was taken from me. And this is not skillful, but this is when I analyze these things. I'm like, that's why I'm starting down this mental pathway. That's why I'm letting this person at the wheel, because I know at the end of the day, the car is going to take me through the drive-through liquor store, or it's going to take me, to running over, someone, metaphorically, of course. We don't have drive-through liquor stores in New York State, though, but they do exist in some states. Might even exist in New Zealand. God's only know. If I lived in New Zealand, I'd probably, I was Scottish, I'd probably insist on drive-through liquor stores, but be that as it may. Yeah, when we analyze these things, it gives us a bigger picture, and I can suddenly say, no, I'm not going to go down this because it's just going to make me miserable. I'm not going to identify with the part of me that wants to be miserable, or the part that wants to hurt other people, or to hurt myself, or to do something else unskillful that I know I shouldn't do and that I haven't been doing. That's another thing, too. When we've been behaving better, there's one of these defilements pops up and says, hey, I haven't had a temper tantrum in a while. Let's think about this. And you know how that works. This is mindfulness, too. It's such an important part of keeping in mind, when you're observing all these things, when you're stilling yourself, when you're sitting in your driver's seat, you have to keep in mind where you want to drive to. And when you're looking at the maps or whatever, or adjusting the GPS or whatever, you need to know where you've gone and the possible routes you have. You have to be very mindful of things. You can't just be all right, I'm in the moment, I'm steering now, I'm keeping the one line on the one side of the road, the other line on the other, I'm missing all the other cars. Okay, that's good. That's the first step, being alert to what's happening. But then we are mindful and we say, okay, I'm going to look at these road signs. What's the next exit? How many miles to the next gas station? How much fuel do I have? And so forth and so on. That's the mindfulness part, because you're driving to a purpose. You're driving to go somewhere more skillful. You're saying something like, well, I want to stop and top off my tank, or I'm going to need to check my air pressure here. You're thinking ahead, and you're thinking, I need to go west or whatever direction. So you look for the road signs that indicate roads that are going that way. And then hopefully you can get to a gas station, as we call them here. And in the old days, they would give you free road maps. And you could stop and check the road maps and stuff like that. I don't know. I don't want to push the metaphor too far. But yeah, we're keeping in mind what we're doing. And what we're doing is understanding, comprehending how our mind works. That's all part of the idea that suffering is to be comprehended. Until we comprehend what's happening, we can't do anything about it. And in fact, a lot of it simply goes away when we comprehend what we're doing, because we simply stop. And some things we don't stop right away, but we can examine. And the more we understand it, the more we consciously say, I don't want to do this. This is silly, as in my case, where I've learned over the years, and especially with our accelerated practice in the last few years, that so many of these negative emotions that I wallow in, and they're great fun, as you know, country western music. I'm looking at the end game, and it's Mara there getting me to do something unskillful at the end of the day, you know, or even at the beginning of the day. uh, and when I see that, I'm like, no, I don't want to go down this path, which I have gone down so many times before anyway. I've been there, I've done that. I don't have to do it again. I don't have to do it again. Because it's happened often enough too that I know that these things that you know, you slip into these worlds and it's like it's everything and all important and it's so real and it determines the entire scope of the universe and this and that, and then not so much. And after you've gone through this several times, you can also see that pattern of how all-encompassing these things try to make themselves for us. But it's like being in that bubble, the bubble metaphor, you know, when you're angry or in any negative emotion and you feel like you fill the universe and then the bubble pops and you realize you've only been pressing up against a bubble and you're all slimy now from the soap and the bubble burst over a bunch of nettles or something like that.